it's probably not going to be my permanent home. I've still got my place on Twitter. I'm still going to be using that, I think, as the main form of communication. But we can't overlook the fact that the biggest tech company in the world essentially has waded into this new space and said, actually, we think we can do it better. If Twitter was a sinking ship, and we've had lots of small lifeboats kind of being launched off it, you can name them Mastodon, Blue Sky, T2 Social, Spoutable. I could go on probably for another half hour with all of those. This is kind of like the well-equipped military frigate with massive guns on the bow that is saying, actually, we're here to save you. Hop on board. We'll take you to safety.
Oh, I love your naval analogy there. Is it going to work? What's your instinct telling you?
I think it stands a better chance than most. We do have to kind of delve back into history here. This isn't the first time that Meta, formerly known as Facebook, has seen the success of a competitor, realised that it could threaten it, and has decided to try and make its own version of it. We've seen this with TikTok, we've seen this with Snapchat, we've seen this with multiple other platforms and formats. They've previously not had huge success. Instagram Reels, which is their TikTok-alike, has done okay, probably the best of all of those copycats, but still not brilliant. The thing that I think is different here is that the incumbent is in such a weak position. We've never had someone seemingly almost intentionally wrecking an app from the inside out in the same way that we have Elon Musk and Twitter. And so I think it stands a good chance. The one thing that weighs against it, ironically, is that it's Meta doing this. For all that, the kind of billions that it can throw at this, if it chose to, will benefit it. There's also this kind of uncool cultural cachet that comes with being the parent company of Facebook. We've lived through Cambridge Analytica. We also are just kind of highly suspicious, I think, of this company and what it does. And so even beyond that, Facebook is kind of seen as a tragic place where old people only exist nowadays, rather than the cool happening place that it needs to be in order to succeed.
Yeah, it's interesting that you see it being owned by Meta as a disadvantage because, of course, Meta has such huge reach in terms of its billions of followers. Before we get on to that, who is Threads aimed at specifically? Is it Twitter users who are unhappy with the recent changes, or is it a bigger audience?
I think it's at its core those disaffected Twitter users, but I think that it's trying to broaden it out a lot. One of the things historically that has sort of played against Twitter has been, while its core user base are the decision makers, politicians, journalists, people in power who can dictate and kind of sway public discussion, it hasn't had comparison to other apps, much of a big user base. We're talking sort of 250 million, 300 million odd people, which sounds a lot when you think about it, but actually, the Meta family of apps, which includes Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, has 3 billion. So, huge amounts more. I think that Meta is trying to make Threads more palatable to those kind of 2.7 billion people who use their apps but don't use Twitter's apps, by making it as friction-free as possible to sign up. So you need an Instagram account. That's the first thing to say. But lots of us have that. But then you just basically press a button and it ports over your account, your username, your followers. It suggests who you can follow there, which makes it really, really easy. And I think that possibly they're trying to bring in more people to that tent and get them what we used to call, back when Twitter was launched, microblogging.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I have an Instagram account and a Twitter account, and I find they are very, very different audiences, and I use them for very different things. Do you think that, you touched on it already, but do you think that Meta is trying to capitalise on Twitter's recent troubles here and hope that they can somehow end up turning out a product that is something people are looking for?
Look, you don't spin up an app like Threads overnight. It would be silly to say that Mark Zuckerberg has managed to develop this huge thing in a matter of days. It's obviously been going on for months, but I think that the timing of the release of Threads is not coincidental. Over the last week or so, Elon Musk has made some pretty huge unforced errors around Twitter that have hugely alienated the user base, or what remains of it, because it's been kind of eroded multiple times by his decisions over the last 9 months. This past weekend, he made kind of three pretty catastrophic ones. Number one, essentially saying that anybody who didn't have a Twitter account could no longer look at Twitter content, a decision he's since overturned, but basically managed to build a wall around a company that is solely dependent on people being able to look in. Then he decided to limit, for those who do have accounts, the number of posts that they can see every single day, which is also bizarre because Twitter relies mostly on advertising revenue, and advertisers want to know that they have an engaged user base on that app. And if you basically say to people, right, you've had 1,000 views of posts, you now can no longer look at anymore, go home, find somewhere else, that's shooting yourself in the foot. And then he alienated the hardcore Twitter users who use a tool called TweetDeck, which is essentially a different way of looking at the app, which allows you to consume much more information much more quickly, by saying that he's going to put that behind a paywall in a month. So those three things, I think, have contributed to Threads being released now. I think probably it's expedited the kind of publication and announcement of this, but I don't think that this is an immediate sort of knee-jerk reaction to Elon Musk ruining Twitter this past week. It's more a recognition that this has been the direction of travel for a long, long time, and trying to take advantage of that.